Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference in how the video performs. And also I'm trying to hit 100k subscribers by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated. I did that intro wrong, but I do not care. This is hot takes, let's get into it. LeBron stats this season are overrated. Most of his points are him waiting on the other end for easy baskets because he doesn't play defense or against backups when the Lakers are getting blown out. He's still top 15, but he is not top 3 anymore. Well, first of all, his defense was he was playing defense to open the year, and in general, his stats to open the year, I would say, were absolutely legitimate. But as the season has progressed, there has been more of the Lakers just getting absolutely toasted, and LeBron being in the game for seemingly no reason other than to fill the stat sheet. So I will say there has been some stat padding on LeBron's part and the Lakers' part, but ultimately I don't think it's a big deal, nor do I really care. Nor do I think most people care that much about LeBron's stats at this age. I mean, they're going to be people who are like, wow, he averaged 29 at 37, which I'm sure is part of his motivation for putting effort into these numbers. But ultimately, it's not really going to matter, and I don't really care. And I also don't, I think you're being I think you're overblowing this a little bit. So there, that's my take. I'm not going to say the Halliburton trade was a good idea, but I feel that fit between Fox and Sabonis will lead to multiple playoff runs for the Kings. The trade is not as bad as I originally said, but at the end of the day, it is still pretty much inherently a bad trade because of the report that came out after the trade went through, which was that basically every other front office in the league was completely perplexed by the fact that Tyrese Halliburton was available. That means that the Sacramento Kings just found the Sabonis trade, did not ask around to see what they could get for Halliburton, which is your due diligence, which you're supposed to do with any time you're trading a player of that caliber. Because they did not do that, automatically a bad trade as far as I'm concerned, because I am certain, based on the shock of other teams, that you could have gotten more, because it seemed as though other teams were like, hey, we would have given you more for Tyrese Halliburton, but you didn't let us know he was available. Not to mention, I don't believe Sabonis' value is near what Tyrese Halliburton is, and not to mention Buddy Hield, who could probably net you a first-round pick, so he's a first-round pick's more valuable than Buddy Hield, as he is, at least on a non-contending team. But either way, my point is, you gave up quite a bit of assets for Domantas Sabonis, and Sabonis is a good borderline all-star caliber player. However, you gave up way too many assets for him, and this might end up being like a drafting Cam Johnson at 11, where yeah, drafting him in that position was kind of dumb because you could have got him 10 picks later, but ultimately who cares, because you still got a good player and it doesn't matter that much in hindsight. It might end up being something like that, but ultimately the trade was bad, and it still will forever be bad to some extent, but not quite as bad as I originally said it was, and most people originally said it was. Embiid, Giannis, and Jokic are the clear top 3 players in the world. Everyone else is battling for 4th place. I think Kevin Durant is just as much in the tier of those guys. I think Steph Curry pre-slump was. Honestly, I don't know how to evaluate Steph Curry right now, because his slump has been going on so long that I don't know if I just accept that he's fallen off or what it is. But if Steph is back to the Steph that we knew, then he's in this tier as well. Crazy Embiid would be in that top 5 player tier, because a year ago I would have had him like 11 in my player rankings. He's without a doubt in my top 5 right now. So what a season he's having. But Kevin Durant and then Steph Curry, when he figures his shit out, is also in the same tier as those 3 guys. Oracle Arena had the best crowd hype of all time. Absolutely. Weird thing here, back when the bubble was a thing and I wanted just to be reminded of what NBA arenas were like, I would actually watch highlights of the Kevin Durant Warriors, because the thing about Oracle and Warriors fans is they do shout like fucking crazy. I was gonna say like motherfuckers, but whatever. They just shout a lot at nothing. So when something actually crazy happens, they really shout. And the thing is, with that Kevin Durant Warriors team, there was a highlight play every 5 possessions. So That team was constantly rocking. I really wish that I could have went to a game at that arena while that team existed, because that would have been a hell of an experience. Carmelo Anthony is not a Hall of Famer. He belongs in the Hall of Very Good. Maybe, if the Hall of Fame was extremely strict and really only let in the greats of the greats of the greats. Because I believe Carmelo Anthony is like inside the top 50, but like not by a lot. Like probably somewhere in my 40s. I'm not sure entirely. That said, a top 50 player of all time, which is what Carmelo Anthony is, absolutely is a Hall of Famer. And he was a lot better than just very good. Carmelo Anthony was a top, at the very least, top 10 player in the NBA for over a decade. And that is no small task. So to say that he is not a Hall of Famer when there's only a handful of players who can say they were that good for that long, absolutely, that's not the case. He's like top 5 or top 6, something like that all time in scoring. I realize longevity is a big factor in that, but at the end of the day, he did what he did, and he's a fucking Hall of Famer. So I strongly disagree with that take. As somebody who is much lower on Carmelo Anthony than many other people are. Carmelo is a pretty polarizing player. I made a video a long time ago, not that long ago, a couple of months ago, about the weird and polarizing career of Carmelo Anthony. I don't believe that the statements that he was a non-winner altogether are true, but I also don't think that he was the most conducive to winning either. I just realized this shirt is inside out, so I'm going to fix that for the next video. But yeah, no, Carmelo is a Hall of Famer for sure. Harden slander is due to people not actually watching him at Houston. I think this plays a part in it, but the only reason they weren't watching him was because of some narratives that the validity of them is really dependent on your perspective. To me, the foul baiting thing was always overblown. People acted like it was literally every single possession. And there'd be some times where it felt like that, but in general, not the case. But because it was that perception of Harden's game, nobody actually watched him. Like, people would actively avoid watching Rockets games. I know my dad would only watch a Rockets game if the Bulls were playing them, because he couldn't fucking stand James Harden. So yeah. Also, the playoff thing, he's horrible in closeout games. He's statistically been awful in closeout games. There is no denying it. It is a stone cold fact. However, saying he is bad in closeout games and saying he is bad in the playoffs are two different conversations. James Harden is an amazing playoff performer. He doesn't elevate his game, but his regular season game is already amazing. So he's already going to play like a top 10 player in the playoffs every single year. He's just going to suck in the closeout games. But his stats are like 28, 7, and 7 on above average true shooting for his playoff career in Houston. So that stuff is also overblown. But I do agree, a lot of people didn't watch Harden in Houston because of the foul baiting stuff being overblown. But it's kind of like a which came first, the chicken and the egg and all that. Peak Russ gets underrated because of how bad he has been this season. I mean, is this even a hot take? Like, I've seen people saying that Russ was not top 75 because of this season. It's like, no, dude. Like, Russ is top 40. he's absolutely top 70 fucking 5. It's ridiculous. Not only has Russ not been so bad this season that it should disqualify like his past years, even if, like, the thing is, it would be stupid to do that, but at least have Russ be so bad this year that that's the case. Other than February, he hasn't been that bad this year that it actually would maybe justify it warping your perception of what he used to be. He hasn't even been that bad, so that would be wrong even if he was that bad, but he hasn't even done that, so what the fuck? I've seen so many people saying he's not top 75 because of the top 75 list being a thing everyone's fucking talking about. Ridiculous. Kawhi Leonard is the best perimeter defender of all time. This is a conversation that comes down to longevity versus peak. When it comes to peak, absolutely. Kawhi Leonard is the best perimeter defender of all time. When it comes to longevity, he has not been the same defender pretty much since he left the Spurs, and it makes me say probably Scottie Pippen. But yeah, Kawhi is a pretty damn great defender now. But at his peak, he was the best I've ever seen, at least. Chris Middleton has a similar case as Andrew Wiggins in that he is a player that was developed wrong and at his core should be a 3-and-D type of player. I don't know what Chris Middleton you're watching, but Chris Middleton is a really good mid-range shooter, a really efficient one at that, which Andrew Wiggins has never been. He's a really good playmaker, which Andrew Wiggins has never been, and a pretty damn good ball handler as well, although I wouldn't say he's like an astronomical distance higher than Andrew Wiggins, but he'd definitely say he's better. Chris Middleton is way better than Andrew Wiggins, and he's an all-star caliber player now without that adjustment. Like, you can make the argument Andrew Wiggins is built to be a 3-and-D player, and he was an all-star caliber 3-and-D player. Well, when he was being that 3-and-D player, not an all-star talent. Meanwhile, Chris Middleton, all-star talent, supposedly playing outside of what his role is supposed to be. No, Chris Middleton is playing the role he's supposed to play. He was the second best player on a championship team. We saw this. I don't know why we're debating this anymore. This is something that we talk about when they haven't proven it. Chris Middleton has proven it. So fuck out of here with that. Also, spell his name correctly. It's with a K, not a C. These are things that you should know by now. It really annoys me when people misspell players' names who have been in public conversation for a long fucking time. Anthony Davis is a top 5 player in the league when he's healthy. Nope.